Chile, a long, narrow country stretching along South America's western edge with a dynamic political history. Today, I'll be talking to a Chilean educator who is critical of the traditional Chilean left, calling himself a Marxist-Leninist. He's publicly manifested his admiration and support to North Korea, saying North Korea is a full, popular democracy. And he advocates the Re-foundation of Chile, calling for a workers' state. This is SOB, and I'm your host, Hassan Tavakoli. Eduardo Artés is a Chilean educator and political figure who was born in October 1951. He's the leader of the Patriotic Union, which nominated him as a candidate for the 2017 and 2021 presidential elections. In 2017, Artés claimed that it was necessary to put an end to the current constitution of Chile and convene a constituent assembly through which the people would be able to build the foundations of the country. Eduardo Artés, welcome to the program.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
First of all, tell us more about yourself and what you do.
Sí, mira, bueno, mi nombre es Eduardo Artés.
Yes, well, my name is Eduardo Artés. I'm from Chile. I'm now 72 years old. But since I was very young, even from the age of 12 onwards, I have dedicated myself to the social struggle against colonialism, against imperialism, for national sovereignty, and for the freedom of nations and peoples. I've done so with all the difficulties and the vicissitudes that this has meant, even during the period of the fascist military dictatorship of Pinochet in Chile. I've also been a presidential candidate twice, defending clearly the position of sovereignty, independence, and social justice. At the international level, I've always been linked, of course, to the peoples, to the nations, and to the countries that have the same ideology. And that is why I'm very happy to be here in Iran, because it is a combination of sensations, right? Iran is a country with such a long history, so important for humanity as a whole, and with a policy that is entirely correct and just today. Also, by this just position of Iran in the face of the genocide carried out by the Zionist entity in the occupied territories of Palestine, the international stature of Iran is even greater, and we, the people and the nations of the world, are very grateful for that.
Mucho más la estatura internacional de Irán, y eso los pueblos lo agradecemos muchísimo.
Talking about Chilean politics, Chile had a recent shift from the left to the right. What were the reasons, do you think?
Bueno, de verdad que hemos tenido.
Well, telling you the truth, we had a change from right to right. Because, however, the current government is a government that was born with some progressive points. It is linked to the imperialism, is under the mandate of North American imperialism, and is absolutely yielding to the interests of the Chilean Corral oligarchy. This government was born as a consequence of the popular uprising in 2019, right? But its only mission has been to recognize the country as it was before the uprising. That is to say, recognizing the country according to the parameters of the oligarchy of imperialism, and all of those who are united in that anti-people and anti-worker attitude, and also in favor of those who have a conception alien to what the majorities demand.
No a lo que reclaman las mayorías.
And what is your position on this?
Hoy día estamos trabajando muy fuerte.
Today, we are working very hard on two lines that are increasingly coming together. The first one is the social and national liberation demands of the Chilean people. And the second one is fighting on the international level, together with the struggle of the peoples against NATO, imperialism, and Zionism. These two struggles, which may seem different, are increasingly united. We are part of these struggles. I am part of these struggles, because it is impossible for Chile to achieve social justice and sovereignty without expelling imperialism and Zionism. In Latin America, either you govern with the gringos or you govern against the gringos.
Contra los gringos.
You call yourself a Marxist-Leninist. Some say this ideology belongs to the past. How would you respond to this?
Mira, el marxismo-leninismo nace.
Look, Marxism, Leninism was born precisely as a synthesis of the struggle of workers for a new world, a world that is yet to be achieved. That ideology, therefore, is still valid. What happens is that there are distortions and there are deformations. Some believe that the national struggle is against and is denied with the social struggle. That is alien to a genuine Marxist-Leninist conception, isn't it? Marxist-Leninist thought unites both things because it understands that one is necessary to achieve the other. Therefore, today, from that conception, we unite ourselves with all anti-imperialists and with all those who fight against Zionism on an international scale because that is the right way. And on this path, we cannot look for minor elements or those that impede the great unity of the peoples and the nations. For example, in the case of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Iran has played a very important role in supporting countries that are not Islamic, such as Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba in Latin America. And that is very much appreciated. It is very important, even if certain leaders also have Marxist views.
As an educator, why are you critical of the traditional Chilean left, and what is your alternative solution to making a change for the better?
Mira, los educadores, los profesores.
Look, all the educators and all the teachers in the world, and particularly in Latin America, have always been with the people and with their struggles, with their needs and with their requirements. It is normal that we take a position from there and support people. Now, in the reality of Chile, what is being proposed today is the reconstruction of the entire popular and anti-imperialist movement, which has been hit hard by the government, by the oligarchy, by imperialism, and by Zionism. As a consequence of the defeat we suffered in 2019, the uprising did not achieve its objectives and goals. And by not achieving its objectives, the reaction has hit hard the social fabric in Chile. So the main task today is to rebuild the entire social fabric, from the labor unions, from the people who live in the towns, from the students, the teachers, the small and medium producers, including the national bourgeoisie that wants to fight for sovereignty and independence.
Now, with regards to Chilean politics, you support the campaign called the Re-foundation of Chile. How much has this campaign received popular support?
Hasta el 2019.
Until 2019, there was a very strong support. Everyone was talking about re-foundation. They were talking about refounding the police system, refounding the armed forces, refounding the judiciary, refounding the parliament, and refounding the whole country. As I explained, the uprising was defeated and a very strong campaign of a reactionary nature was launched. But there have been 2 years of this reactionary campaign. Now the people are once again beginning to raise the flags of refoundation because none of their demands has been met or fulfilled. The demands that led the people to rise up by the millions in the streets and the cities and particularly in the entire country in 2019. Today, the flag of refoundation is once again beginning to take more and more space and importance in Chile. And when we talk about refoundation, we're not making a copy of what was there before, but rather a change that is structural and that takes into account the new needs for sovereignty, independence, and social justice.
Y la justicia social.
Let's touch on North Korea and the fact that you call it a full popular democracy and that politics there have been handled well. You have the experience of traveling to North Korea. What kind of a country is it? Because it's lesser known to the public.
Bueno, ¿qué es democracia?
What is democracy? Democracy is when people govern and have access to everything that society produces, both on the intellectual, spiritual, and material level. the Democratic People's Republic of Korea as a popular democracy and socialist construction according to its reality, born after a brutal war waged by American imperialism. To this day, Korea is divided into two parts, and the struggle of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea for reunification has been constant. The United States has more than 60,000 troops in South Korea. It has nuclear weapons. The United States conducts 2 or 3 times a year large military exercises with other countries there. Now, it even includes Japan, Australia, and others in its military drills. And with the troops of the puppet army of South Korea, the United States is threatening or simulating an invasion of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. That reality of being threatened makes political expression in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea take a certain form. If there were no such threat, there would surely be another form of expression. However, from a social development point of view, Korea is already quite strong and important. Otherwise, it would not exist. It has endured a siege. It has endured sanctions and incredible blockades. Now, what is the issue? That is the reality that the people of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea have sovereignty chosen, which is not and could not be copied in Iran, in Chile, or in England. The ways that the people and the nations seek to solve their historical demands for sovereignty and for justice depend on a series of material and ideological conditions that are in those very people who are seeking that path.
So what parallels do you see between your country, Chile, and North Korea?
Well, we could say common enemies, American imperialism. Undoubtedly, Chile, all South America, and all Latin America are considered the backyard of the United States of America. Therefore, the United States is a sworn enemy of Latin American peoples and countries, as it is also, in this case, a sworn enemy of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Our peoples and nations also fight to have the state apparatus in their hands and to build a society according to their demands. The same has been done by the Koreans in the northern part, but at different times and different realities, also with accents and forms that are different, but with common general principles.
Pero con principios generales comunes.
Would you say that Chile should become a country like North Korea?
No, debe serlo.
No, Chile must be like North Korea just in one direction, in the direction of being sovereign, independent, and with social justice. Chile must have a government that is free from foreign interference and influence, and must have a government that protects its people and fulfills their demands. But it cannot be a copy, because when I was there in North Korea, the comrades of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea were very clear. They were saying that this is our experience and our reality, and the experience of Chile and other countries is different and must be different.
Es distinta y tendrá que ser distinta.
So what are the things that you think Chile should take from North Korea?
Chile, en este instante,
Chile is currently a country that is absolutely dependent on foreigners. We have no industry of any kind, we have no food security, we have no energy security, nor security of construction materials for infrastructure. However, being one of the countries with 45% of the world's total copper reserves, and being the second with the most lithium in the world, despite that, we have no industry at all. Neoliberalism destroyed all the national industry that was built built over many years in Chile, like textile industry, mechanical industry, even food plantations. Chile once exported wheat. Today, 70% of what we consume in food is brought in from abroad. So we must learn from the Koreans to solve our problems with our own strength, with our own industrialization, with agriculture in our hands, but with the characteristics of the Chilean reality.
Propia de la realidad chilena.
Well, let's talk about the United States of America and Chile. Well, as we know, the United States plotted a coup against President Salvador Allende and installed Augusto Pinochet as their puppet in Chile. And today, as we speak, how much of an influence does the United States have in Chilean politics?
El gobierno de Salvador Allende
The Salvador Allende's government was built and installed with two essential elements: national independence and social justice, with a clear anti-American position. This confronted American imperialism. This meant that in 1971, the main wealth that Chile has, the copper, was nationalized, a measure which was not well received by the United States. Immediately, American companies and the CIA itself began to act in a brutal manner. They created riots and disturbances, and they paid and influenced mercenaries within the country, including the hegemonic press of an oligarchic nature, to carry out a campaign of discredit. They even caused shortages of essential products such as milk, flour, etc. The coup d'etat was planned and carried out by the Americans. Kissinger said that the Chilean economy had to be made to scream. He said this in relation to the Salvador Allende's government. And they did it. Even at the time of the coup d'etat in 1973, part of the U.S. 7th Fleet was off the coast of Chile, and they were ready to offer direct military support in case the internal native military who carried out the coup under the U.S. orders failed. That was not necessary, not at all, because the military in Chile did not change its character during the government of Salvador Allende, which lasted only 2 years, very little time. The ultra-reactionary, even fascist ideas and the Chilean armed forces remained intact. After that, these ideologies reached everywhere. Now, to this day, and today with a great force, the United States has an interventionist policy in Chile, in the armed forces and in natural resources. The commander of the Southern Command, Laura Richardson, has repeatedly said that the copper, lithium, water, and the forests that Chile and other countries of Latin America have are really important for the national security of the United States. That is to say, Chile has great resources that have turned the country rich, but at the same time, those resources are also considered a great disadvantage and a threat for the country because the imperialism does not allow it to achieve its sovereignty and independence easily. The imperialism is going to fight there and to spread death and destruction.
Morir matando.
Well, based on what you said, are there still supporters of the Pinochet regime who want to regain power in Chile?
No, no es así.
No, it is not like that. However, there's a distortion that is due to a phenomena that is crossing all of Latin America, which is the phenomena of drug trafficking and crime. This makes people quickly start to see and feel that we want police, we want military forces because of the problem of security, because of the problem of losing freedom, and even because of the problem of losing social rights. Drug trafficking in Latin America is being used by the United States to turn our countries into failed states, as it is happening in Ecuador, El Salvador, Peru, and also in Chile. Drug trafficking here in Latin America plays a role similar to Daesh or ISIS in Western Asia. It destabilizes the society and causes terror in the population, and that undoubtedly serves the imperialist power to put their claws in. This is how crime and delinquency are being used, and that can lead a fraction of the population and people to say, even if we have a rifle at our neck, but we will be alive.
Pero voy a estar vivo.
What kind of a future do you see for Chile?
Nuestros países
Our countries are obliged to fight for their sovereignty and independence, and to unite this struggle with the socialist struggle. Sometimes, some people have mistakenly separated both struggles and created an artificial contradiction among people and nations, because the workers, the peasants, the indigenous people, and also an important part of the small and medium producers, bourgeoisie, etc., are interested in the struggle for national liberation. The struggle for national liberation is the only path that we Latin Americans have to take and pursue. We have no other path. Otherwise, our countries will become more and more simply beachheads for foreign troops and will be converted into places of generalized exploitation by the North Americans, losing even their ways of being and their culture. Unfortunately, the culture in Latin America has become more and more gringo and is under the influence of North American culture. That is a very serious problem because the people and the nations are losing their identity. And we have to emphasize, protect, and cherish the values developed by our nations and the history of our countries, similar to what happened in 1979 here in the Islamic Revolution. An important factor of the Islamic Revolution was to prevent the collective West from harming the whole values of the society and people, its concepts, its belief, and its way of seeing life. That is really important. So we clearly think that unity, in order to confront that giant monster that we have in the north, which is the United States of America,
que es Estados Unidos.
At the end of every show, we request our guest to look into the camera and speak their mind about an issue which is of utmost concern to them. Please look into the camera and say what you want.
Bueno, lo primero, mi opinión y mi ideología.
Well, first of all, I should say that my opinion and my ideology are born from my search and my efforts to reach a better and superior society for our people. Otherwise, we have no future. The humanity cannot stagnate. It must change. It must improve itself. It must correct itself and reach new levels. That is the dream of humanity. That is a dream that we have. And while apartheid, racism, fascism, and imperialism exist together with Zionism, there will be no possibility of processing and moving on to a new moment in the history of humanity. That is why the struggle of the peoples and the struggle of the nations must be to eradicate these scourges that are quite powerful and sometimes penetrate the heads of human beings in different ways. In that sense, from Chile, we send a greeting and at the same time call to the world to unite the maximum forces, the maximum wills and determination in this true campaign or a generalized struggle for sovereignty and independence, and to prevent imperialism from leading us to a world catastrophe. Because if a global catastrophe breaks out, as always, it will be the people who will suffer. The imperialists cannot and must not go that far. We must cut off their hands before. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you, Eduardo Artés.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.